Every state has its traditional myths, urban legends, origin stories, and unique monsters that play a role in the history and lore of locals. Wrapped in ever-changing mythology, these stories travel from people to people and place to place. However, while many other states across the country reap tales of horror, ghosts, and savagery, Idaho's Native American roots clearly shine through our most popular tales. Hundreds of stories exist, but these are key to the formation of Idaho. Coyote and the Seven Devils. The Seven Devils form a portion of the Idaho-Oregon border, as well as line the state's most treasured river canyon, Hell's Canyon. The Nez Perce in particular had origin stories for nearly every feature of Idaho's diverse landscape. And the story of the Seven Devils is a unique one. Many years ago, there were 7 child-eating giant brothers who lived in the horizon. The people were terrified of these giants. They sent word to Coyote to help them defeat the giants and save their children. Coyote knew he couldn't battle 7 giants at once, so he dug 7 massive holes in the earth and filled them with boiling liquid. As the giants were traveling east to snatch more children, they tripped into the holes and were trapped. As they struggled to free themselves, they scattered the hot liquid for as far as the eye could see. Coyote was then able to transform the giants into stone, and he opened up a canyon at their feet to keep them from ever reaching the villages again. Charlie. McCall's Charlie, who was named via a newspaper contest in the 50s, is reported to be between 10 and 50 feet long, brownish green, and travels in serpent-like waves, rising and falling out of the water. But this gentle beastie garners nothing but love from locals, who can't seem to recall an incident when Charlie attacked any of the lakeside city's residents. Massacre rocks water babies. Depending on the story, a water baby is a spirit or monster, traditionally seen as a Native American bred urban legend of small childlike creatures living in the waters of reservations around the western U.S. They are tricksters whose goal is murder. The Bear Lake Monster. The legend of the Bear Lake Monster originally grew from articles written in the 20th century by Joseph C. Rich, a Mormon colonizer who recorded second-hand accounts of sightings of the creature. Just recently, a 25-foot decomposed carcass was found on the Utah shore of the lake, and many locals are convinced that this quote-unquote water devil somehow met his untimely end after hundreds of years of sightings and attacks. Uniquely, this massive creature was said to have used his lengthy neck to reach onto land and kill whomever he chose. Spirit Lake Origins. Spirit Lake's name is no mystery to those who live there. Years ago, a young Native American woman began a relationship with a brave from a rival tribe. Unable to wed, but determined to preserve their doomed love, the two tied their wrists together in symbolic marriage and jumped from Suicide Cliff into the lake. On moonlit nights, you can see their shadowy spirits drifting across the lake in a phantom canoe, while mournful sounds fill the air as the Indian lovers seek release from their watery grave. Idaho doesn't exist. Now guys, don't take this one seriously, especially to my Idaho viewers. I myself don't believe this one. I find it pretty ridiculous. Every now and then, someone, this reader included, will refer to Idaho as if it were an actual place. but in an Americanized form of the Bielefeld conspiracy, and according to dozens of web pages which have genuinely, as well as facetiously, called into question the very existence of Idaho as a physical location, the Gem State simply doesn't exist. We're not alone, mind you. North Dakota doesn't exist either.
What'd you say?
Do not take that one seriously, especially to my North Dakota viewers. I myself do not believe that one either. But like the original Bielefeld movement overseas, the rationale against Idaho's actuality can be boiled down to 3 premises. Do you know anybody from Idaho? Have you ever been to Idaho? Do you know anybody who has ever been to Idaho? For most, the answer is no. Therefore, Idaho cannot be. To many, Idaho is simply an urban legend, much like the idea that the Earth is round. In fact, the general consensus is that Idaho was put on the map because cartographers needed a barrier to separate Utah from Canada and protect Montana from Washington. But to those who live in Idaho, or do they? One explanation is that Idaho is a government-operated mind control vacuum. Another postulation is that Idaho exists, but, quote, only as a state of mind, unquote. The whole debacle stirs up a plethora of very real philosophical arguments. But according to conspiracy logic, if you feel like you're living in Idaho right now, odds are it is simply the result of other conspiracies at work, like those below. Idaho is purposely drugging its residents. In 1947, Lewiston began adding fluoride to its water, as did the vast majority of US cities, a practice which still exists today. Many suspected, however, that the addition of fluoride, which was touted as an easy way to cut down on widespread tooth decay, was in fact a large-scale attempt to underhandedly medicate Idaho citizens, as well as a means of covering up the drastic lack of dental care provided for the Gem State's working poor. The dramatic decrease in childhood cavity levels recorded by 1950 supported the practice as a whole. But to this day, fluoridation is still majorly opposed for a variety of reasons, including links to cancer and bone loss. The Lewiston Civic Theater. Prior to the theater that stands today, the Lewiston Civic Theater was once a Methodist church that dates back to 1902. In 1971, it became a theater, and in the 1980s, 2 women and 1 young man all disappeared from the theater on the same night. Both women were found dead off the property, and the man was never found. Police believed an employee of the theater was responsible for murdering all 3, but never had enough to indict him. Some believe the man's body is buried beneath the theater, and that he still haunts the building. There have been numerous sightings of a female apparition fading up the stairs, and many odd occurrences all throughout the theater. The chandelier spins on its own, the trapdoor flies open and slams shut, a ghost of a director has been seen in the balcony, and, apparently, a bride weaves herself through the seats. Who wants to go to a movie? The Waiai Mountain Dwarves. Deep within the caves of the Waiai Mountains dwell evil little dwarves. According to the Shoshone and Bannock Indians, these tiny twisted beasts stand 2 feet tall, have long tails, and eat children. Although, before you get carried away by baby-devouring terror, it's possible that they eat elk too. One of the dwarves has been described as completely naked, aside from the dead elk he wears draped across his back. And you can even identify the little buggers. Just look for the long tails that they wrap around their bodies for cover. The Boise Murder House. What's known to Boise locals as the Murder House is now home to a fraternity. Go figure. More than 30 years ago, the infamous house was the site of the brutal murder and mutilation of Preston Murr, whose body was dragged across the porch, down the sidewalk, and dumped 100 miles away in Brownlee Reservoir. The blood trail led investigators back to the basement, where Preston Murr's body was hacked into 13 pieces, and, allegedly, the bloodstains can still be seen today. Sometimes, it's said, the stains even appear and disappear randomly. In the house, the window blinds open and shut on their own, and, most chillingly, there's an apparition of an unknown woman in a 19th century dress frequently spotted looking out the window of the house. The Fishwomen of Lake Coeur d'Alene. If one is to take Idaho urban legends seriously, then there really doesn't seem to be a safe place to swim in the entire state. Lake Coeur d'Alene not only has a mysterious fishwoman living in its waters, but it also houses a horned monster big enough to lift boats right up out of the water that has been seen on multiple occasions. Probably not the best place to take a dip. The Ghost Stallion of Waiai County. Apparently, Waiai County, Idaho has mythical creatures that materialize from the clouds. A great white stallion and its herd of phantom horses are said to appear from rifts in the clouds whenever there is a farmer or cowboy in danger. So the legend goes, the horses will lead those lost in the wilderness to safety. Those horses sound like some true American heroes.